G-L-U-S-E-N-K-A-H, and the last name is Glusenkamp. You spell it G-L-U-S-E-N-K-A-M-P. And my technical position here, the name is Voter File Manager. I'm the Voter File Manager. Okay. And what that means is that I'm the person who's responsible for maintaining the database that we use to track all of our voter contact. Sorry? Sure. So the database system we use is called the Vote Builder. And the Vote Builder is like I said, it's a database that tracks voter contact. And so the biggest chunk of the campaign that we have is what's called our field operation. So you've got a couple different sides in the campaign. You've got communications, and those are the folks who deal with reporters and do messaging and come up with the advertisements. You have folks who do research, who are studying the policies. You have there's a political department who they manage the relationships with other candidate campaigns and other elected officials. And then you have the field, which is the largest part of the campaign. And the field is who is responsible for going out and organizing in a given turf in a region of, say, like of the city, say like Northwest, which is what Allison has. Okay. So my job, and so what we try to do is get as many, the end goal of the field operation is to have as many person-to-person conversations happening about our candidates as possible. So Democratic candidates. And the top of our ticket right now is Patty Murray for the U.S. Senate, because she's the main federal, so there's a couple different levels of elections going on. There's the federal level campaigns, right? So people who are going to go to Washington, D.C., and then there are the folks who are going to go to Olympia, which are the state level campaigns. And we actually work for both because we're the coordinated campaign. But the most important race for us is the Senate race for Patty Murray. And then after that, we have each of the congressional campaigns, of which there are 9. Those are the folks that will go to the U.S. House, right? And so we also work for those folks. But then we also work for the people who are going to be state senators and state House representatives for State House Position 1, State House Position 2. Okay? So you guys know all that. But that's sort of where we are in the world. So our job is to get as many people talking to other people in their local neighborhood about our candidates. And so there's two big parts of that. One side of it is kind of a volunteer recruitment operation, which is going out and recruiting people who have played a role in a campaign previously or who have signed up on our website. And we try to go out and ask those people to come in and make calls and knock doors. So that's half of it. So the volunteer recruitment and volunteer management is a big chunk of it. But the work they're doing is going out, knocking doors, and making phone calls. And who they talk to is basically my job, which is the database. So we have a list of all registered voters in the state of Washington. There's about 3.5 million of them. And there's no way the campaign could talk to all registered voters in the state of Washington. It's just impossible. So it's kind of like in economics, they say like there's just scarce resources. Everybody would love to have like the nicest car, but there aren't enough, right? So it's the same concept, is that we don't have enough time or money to talk to all of the registered voters in the state of Washington, so we have to target specific people to talk to. And so part of my job is that targeting operation. And I want a whiteboard to I'll grab one in a second. So my job is to figure out who we're going to talk to, who is it most effective and efficient for us to speak to, and also how do we then keep track of all of the volunteers that we're recruiting and all of the work that they're doing when they call someone, when they knock someone's door. We record the result. We record data on what those people tell us. So they say, oh, I'm a Patty Murray supporter or I'm a Dino Rossi supporter, and then we keep track of that. And basically the goal is to build a big enough list of supporters, of people who wouldn't otherwise vote, and then turn those people out to vote on election day. So that's kind of the macro scale thing about my job. I don't know if that makes some sense. No. Okay. So feel free to ask more questions or keep it going.
How did you get involved with Patty Murray's?
So I got involved Originally, I got involved in the Obama campaign, and I just really believe Barack Obama is an exceptional human being, and I believe that we can't just that the few that who gets elected and who's in power, it's always assumed that it's pretty much determined what that's going to be and who that's going to be, and that's absolutely not the case. I just don't believe that at all. I think the reality is totally up for ours to shape, and I think Barack Obama understands that too, both in terms of electoral politics, but also the type of country and the type of world that we live in. It's not written for us. We have to make it happen the way that we think it should happen. And so when I saw Barack Obama speak like that and say that, the definition of what America is not, some gas-guzzling, SUV driving, warmongering kind of jackass. That's not what it means to be American. It's what we say it is. And if Barack Obama, and that's what's so cool about Barack Obama is he's I'm American, I'm a mixed race, I believe in the civil rights movement, the workers' rights movement, the women's rights movement, the environmental movement. That's what it means to be American, not this caricature that everyone has in the world of George Bush. That's not American. I'm American. We're going to define it ourselves. And so I got involved in the campaign based on that belief for Barack Obama, and I went out and knocked doors and made phone calls to thousands and thousands of people throughout the Obama campaign, and saw that really did actually make a difference in how people were going to vote. And I thought it made more of a difference than the television advertisements that were out there, because I could actually see people respond to me talking to them in person. And using the database, we kept track of those conversations. And so throughout the campaign of the Obama, I learned just how to use the database really well. And so being more data focused and focused on, like I said, data focused, being focused on that really good data accuracy and data management is something that I think campaigns need to do a better job of, and so I just naturally learned more about that. And I love the Northwest, and I just moved out here from Colorado, and I came out here and figured out that there was a campaign going on, and I applied for the job, and got it because I've been doing this for 3 years now. So that was cool. So next question.
I guess I'll ask that.
Cool.
What would you say are the biggest differences or similarities that you've noticed between working on the Obama campaign and the PAC campaign?
Biggest similarities
Or
differences? Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. The biggest difference is that, well, there's a lot of similarities and there's a lot of differences. I'd say that the Patty Murray campaign reminds me right now much more of what it was like on the Obama campaign very early on. Because I started on the Obama campaign when we were in Iowa in 2007, well before he got as popular as Barack Obama got. And so it was actually a lot harder because most people, for instance in Iowa, they didn't know Barack Obama, they didn't know his name, they never heard of him. They were like, who is this dude? And so it was really difficult. And that's actually a lot more similar to what it is right now, is that it's difficult, to get people to come in and volunteer. It's difficult to get people to do the work that we're asking of them to do right now. In 2008, by the end of in the general election, it was people were just knocking on the door. We couldn't, there were so many volunteers, people willing to do work, to go knock doors, make phone calls, because people were just excited about Barack Obama candidacy and how cool he was, and it's just true. But it wasn't that way in the beginning, and for months and months and months and months, it was very, very difficult. People saying there's no way he can win. America's not ready to vote for someone who's black. It's just not going to happen. And so it was much more difficult early on. That's because of that reason. The difference is, though, is now it's different. That in the end it was huge, and this isn't huge anymore. The Democratic enthusiasm is really low this year, right? So folks aren't as energetic and excited about the election, and I think that's unfortunate because we've gotten a lot done. But it's really hard to tell that if you just watch cable news. In terms of the campaign structure, though, it's actually really similar. How the campaigns run, we have a big emphasis on the field operation. Again, a lot of campaigns prior to 2008 didn't do that. They would just spend most of their money on television advertisements. And the Obama campaign said, we need to spend more money on the field operation. operation, which is hiring